And we're here with distinguished guests of the city, the voices of the urban community, the voices of all communities coming together to just have a conversation and talk commonly with one another to find goals and solutions. We've been talking about this, Councilman Dennis, you know, we spoke this into existence when you came on the show before, of having this town hall, state of Duval, so that we could just have voices heard and try to progress our voices forward and have them amplified. And I just want to, we'll come and introduce everyone, but before I do anything with this show, we have a word of prayer. So we'll just take a quick word of prayer, please.
If everyone bow their heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you humbly to thank you, Father, for this pivotal moment and also this momentous chance to come forth as a city and as brothers and sisters of the city, no matter what color, creed, or religion. But under your name, Jesus, we come and ask that you will bind us and give us the knowledge and words to come together and find a true solution to some serious problems, and that you bless us and continue to go forward, Father. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. And again, thank you for tuning in for the Excuse the Duval and Me live talk show here live at the Cookbook Restaurant at 1827 North Pearl Street. You still have time to get here and join us to be a part of the conversation. I have here to the left of me, Mr. Ben Frazier. Thank you, sir, for being here with the Northside Coalition of Jacksonville Incorporated. Thank you, Ms. Rhonda Peoples-Waters, running for Duval County Judge Group 6. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. We have Ken Jefferson, with Mr. Dex, crime and safety analyst, and just part of our lives daily. We have attorney John M. Phillips of Phillips and Hunt Law Firm. Thank you for being here, sir. We have James Anthony Coleman. He's with First Coast News Sports, and just a great guy. He's always been here with us with Excuse the Duval and Me live talk show, adding his voice. Thank you, sir, for being here. We have Dr. Albert Chester. Thank you, sir, for being here. And you're running for Congress District 5, correct?
Right.
Thank you, sir. We have Rashad Williams, and he's with the 21st Men and their organization here in Florida in Jacksonville and Duval. And they represent the 21st Men of masculinity and just doing a lot of different things throughout the community, but you'll get a chance to tell us what you do. And we have Dr. White, correct?
Correct.
And what's the name of
Heritage
Heritage Christian Center, and he is going to be lending his voice as well with giving us a word and structure from how the Lord would see it for us to do, but also a voice of the Black man in the community, correct? Thank you so much, sir, for being here. We're just going to start off and get off, and thank you again, everyone, for being here.
What about your moderator, CapOne?
I'm sorry.
Can't pay you for it.
I'm sorry.
So I tell you,
I'm sorry. Don't you start. This is not that kind of show. This is CapOne, and he is the moderator of the. What happened to me now? See, stop talking.
I'm okay. You know?
No. Are we shorting it out? Or?
Mike check.
Mic check. Okay, where are I going?
Okay, we're back.
Hey, why TV things happen? We're gonna flow with it. Well,
Sure, hold on.
and I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to tell you, the people who are looking via live, we also have Councilman Garrett Dennis of the Duval County, and he is joining us via video call live stream. And thank you, sir, for being here. As you know from the flyers and all of the promos that was going out, we were supposed to have a few other councilmen here. Unfortunately, due to other circumstances, they weren't able to come due to some COVID, some were saying different other reasons, but it is what it is. But I wish they could have been here to lend their voice. I will admit I had to come out of my feelings and not be upset when someone, commits to being here, because we want the voices of the city to go forward, and we don't want the doors of city council and city hall closed. This is a meeting to try to say, how do we come together? And the only way to do that is to have those kind of conversations. So I extend to the councilman to be able to come back again and talk at a later date and time, because we got to have these conversations. We got to move past the rallies and the protests. They're all good, but what we're going to do is we need action. and we need progression. And that's what we're here for, to find out how we do that, and how we come together as voices of many, a mixed multitude coming together for one agenda. Okay? All right, well, I have elbow room. Ever since this happened with the George Floyd, all the momentum we have going, I don't know about any of you, but I feel like I have room to breathe now. I wake up with hope and expectation, and I will admit that for most of us, of the black persuasion, we didn't know the way out. You know, you knew that you could go to college and you didn't think that you couldn't help everyone. What we have going on right now can help everyone if we can all get behind it. If we all just stand up and be counted, we can all progress forward and not just one section, one fraction. We can all do it together. So we wanted to start off talking about how our generation has never experienced the hope that we're feeling and how we capitalize on it. And just to get everything open, you know, I just would like to hear what each of you want to hear, what you want to see from the city going forward. Everybody sees the protest, but what do you feel the end result should be? Can I ask everybody to first give me their thoughts on that? That's a simple thought, okay?
So then from my understanding, what we're saying is, where do we want to go from here?
Yes.
I want to be perfectly honest and straightforward with you in telling you that protest is very much a part of this equation. Protest brought us here.
Yes.
We have a three-part thing: agitate, educate, organize. What we are up against right now is the same thing we've been up against for literally hundreds of years. Ideas and an ideology of white supremacy. It is the overarching background of every subject that you will bring up here today. It's alternate. It's inextricably linked. We don't want to lose sight of the fact that we must continue to protest, to get the attention of the white power structure in the city, this nation. Understand that they have ignored us, not acknowledged us, not just for mayoral administrations, but literally for generations. We must continue to protest. So then, what do we see for the future? Until the white power structure changes and accepts and moves forward in a positive way with regard to change and accepting our demands, we will continue to protest. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, it never will. What we're talking about here is struggle. And without struggle, there can be no progress. Do we want to see something different beyond protest? Why, of course. We want to remain solution-oriented. We want to remain positive and filled with faith and not fear. But I must tell you, we are cautiously optimistic. And, of course, we wonder all the time, but the opposition is planning, whether they are earnest, whether they are prepared to have open and honest dialogue. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to effective engagement between all the shareholders so that we can make progress and effect positive change. That is what I'm proffering here now as my hope for the future, that we can communicate more effectively with each other so we're not just talking at each other, but with each other.
A wonderful intro into Ms. Waters. Ms. Peoples Waters, what do you feel the future is?
Yes, so thank you for having us here today. I think it's a very important conversation. And what I would say, my choice or what, my first thought of desire and goal is out of the, this talk and really everything that we've seen over the last few months is equal access. And then we also want the systemic racism, the institutionalized systems that we know are around us to be broken down. We need those barriers down. And I would just say that we are challenged. This is our moment to make sure that we present better opportunities for the next generation. I myself have been on my own protest since 2009 when I first submitted an application to the Judicial Nominating Committee for a judicial appointment. And when you have those of us who don't have the connections, but are qualified, then we're not being placed into those positions that are very important in our community. We have to address those issues, and this is, in my opinion, a great time to make sure that we educate, as Mr. Frazier said, the community to understand that if we don't break down these barriers, what we're passing on to our children is less than what we had coming into. So we must move forward and begin to demand equal access.
My check. Oh, we don't have any sound.
One in your right hand.
Right. Can you hear me? Thank you for this privilege. Since the death of George Floyd, we have seen a spark in our nation, which was the spark that we needed, that this country needed to address all of the ills that's been going on for centuries. We not only saw protests and loud voices from the African American community, but every community has been protesting. Every community has been saying enough is enough. We recognize the systemic racism that's been prevalent for so long. And now it's time to do something. What I hope for is continual progress, not a knee-jerk reaction because of the pressure. We understand, and I've said it on the air, that Melissa Nelson, our state attorney, already started releasing these body cam videos because of the public pressure. We've had the cameras for 2 years and didn't release any video, any body cam. When you look at these other agencies, within 48 hours or sooner sometimes, you're releasing a body cam. What do you have to hide? What's your reasoning? I understand they're saying legal implications and things like that. But my point with that is it's not to hammer Melissa Nelson. My point is this. As Mr. Frazier said, when we continue to put pressure on the elected officials and hold them accountable for what they were elected for, that's when progress will be done. These protests remind me of the protests in the 60s. Now some of you are too young to remember that, but the protests in the 60s was sparked by people like a young John Lewis. When we look at the protesters now, it's primarily built for young people. Because I marched in 2 and I was exhausted.
Yes, sir.
But it's primarily built for young people with voices, with intellect, with determination and drive to get things done. And they're not going anywhere. That's how things happen. That's how things get done. So with that, and that's our future political leaders. Yes. That's doing the marching, the protesting, and making the speeches and things like that. And I'm very proud of these young people that's doing that. So we just need to stay on that line. Last point. When you go to the polls, don't just go and ask somebody who should I vote for. Search the candidates for yourself.
see if they line up with your principles. Don't just go and vote from a quick pick. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but don't just go and vote from a quick pick. Go and research candidates like Rhonda was, like Chester, and see if they line up with what you agree with. And if they do, vote for them and carry 5 people with you to vote for them. But not only that, hold them accountable for what they say they're going to do. Hold them, if they say they're going to do A and they do Z, hold them to A, go back to A. You got to hold them accountable. What happens a lot of times is that our elected officials get in these positions, and after a while, they become complacent, and it's not for the people, but other people and by the people. It's for them, by them, and for them, for their agenda. So we've got to hold them accountable.
Thank you, Ken. I don't know if that's doing a whole lot.
No, it's not.
Passing the same thing, but it looks good. As does this panel. So I'm mindful of being different than everybody else on this panel, and I'm honored because I am. I'm also mindful that it's people like me that failed generations after generations after generations of people. And to some extent, America's in a position where we're handing out baby steps and saying, shouldn't we get accolades for America? And that's that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And the Dalai Lama said, when you speak, you reveal your ignorance. When you listen, you erase your ignorance. Paraphrase. And what we need is more people, more white people to listen. America's gotten real good at talking to one another and yelling at one another and telling you what their opinion is. Even in the protests, we had a statue come down, and then a mayor who said, "Well, applaud me for taking the statue down. Listen, I got more stuff to do." And we're all in a bubble how we were raised, right? I had a compassionate mother and kind of a jerk of a father, and fortunately I went the compassionate way. But had I not had her drag me from the side of redneck Alabama, I don't know where I'd be. George Davis pulled me out, gave me a second chance. And right now, America has a position as an absolute obligation for second chances. And we got to give each other time to breathe. We got to give each other time to learn. And white people out there especially, listen.
Thank you.
Yeah, there we go. I was trying to wonder how I was going to sound with the mask on. Everybody else speaks, especially, I got to get your number. I need you to read like some bedtime stories to me. I get it.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, I thought I was getting that. But my hope for all of this is to not have to have my resume go in front of me to get equal treatment. Something that I've learned from all of this, and it's been great to have conversations, but when you saw what happened with George Floyd, even though he was pulled over for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill, so his debt was over $20, something that I casually spend on cigars. So essentially I smoke $20 away. The life, to know that, and then to see the video of a man who cried out to his dead mother, which I mean, you see all of these. That's the only reason that I've been calling for my mother when I've been in pain since I was an infant. So you see a strong, burly man get reduced to an infantile state
I hope for that not to happen to me, for me not to have the time that I was arrested for being on the corner with my friends in the neighborhood that I was in because of laws that state that if I'm within 100 yards of a drug deal, I can, 100 for a certain amount of fee of a drug deal, I get arrested for them not to go dig up something like that. To not have to have my accolades as an athlete be what justifies or not justifies my death. For me to be able to for simple things, like to be able to have my day in court and not be afraid of because I'm a tall, big Negro. And because of the Negro that's in the mindset of policing, that's on TV, hell, I'm afraid of that person. I don't know who this person is, but like if I see this person, I'll be terrified of them too. But to be treated in such a manner that I'm an American citizen, to have a wife that still serves our country, who has rules of engagement to where she kills the wrong person in combat, she gets to go to Fort Leavenworth. There is no history of that she's an officer. There is no she killed the wrong person in a true combat zone.
Right.
I don't walk out that door thinking that I'm going to get shot. There's a possibility. There's a possibility I can get hit by a piano too. But there's a lot of things. But to have the hope that the world that I've created for myself that's so far removed from where I grew up in is good enough to also be able to hope that my son is able to use his compassionate side, his artistic side, his funny side, and not be looked at, because again, just if you looked at Coleman's or if you look at we're big Negroes. We're scary. We have a resting bitch face. That happens. That's why I try to smile more. But I don't want to get to not have to worry about if he's going to, because the Jordan Davis thing, that was the gas station that I go to, the Starbucks cup that I had today is in that very same center. That could very well still be my son's. But to see all of these things that are going on and to hear true counterpoints that are very good, like, what about, I call it American violence because the same statistics that tell us about black on black violence tell us that white people kill white people. Right. They tell us that Jews kill Jews. Right. It tells us that crime is about proximity. Mm-hmm. What are things that we can do to also eradicate that? But I should not have to fear for somebody, because I'm in a pretty decent tax bracket, to where my money goes for them to protect and serve me. And why is it that in my neighborhood, I want my son to be able to look out and see fairness? Why is it that there's one police officer that does just traffic duty in my neighborhood every now and then? But we have zero crime. It's one of the safest neighborhoods in Jacksonville. But in the neighborhoods that I remember growing up in, where there's a police officer on every corner, it's in football or in sports, we have this term called you're either coaching it or you're allowing it. I want the truth. I want to be able to learn what the rules are so that I can function and be as successful as possible, and I can teach my sons so that many of these African-American men who we're all stereotyped who probably have very involved fathers or they're involved fathers, so that we can actually teach our sons. And then to also see as what Malcolm X talked about in the 1960s, instead of us talking about progress, let's remove the 9-inch blade from our back and actually allow for the healing. Let's recognize wrongs, but not just symbolically. Let's recognize and let's create action, and then that action help us be able to continuously push forward. I mean, those are the things and I'm with you. I think Mr. Kim brought up these. I'm with these young people because they're not about talking. These aren't the thugs. To be honest with you, I grew up with thugs. Thugs don't go actively looking for police opportunities. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that before, but if you got warrants, you typically stay away. These are college students that are just tired, that aren't afraid to die. And I'm going to be honest with you, I took up that mindset a long time ago when I saw people who look like me dying from that. That's why I got life insurance policy. But I don't want my sons to have to feel that way. I want them to feel more equally. Excuse me, I say my sons too, I have a daughter as well, but I want them all to be able to feel like when I go out there and I do what I'm supposed to do, I don't have to worry about anything. I'm protected because I am an American. And though I don't want to feel like the only time I'm an American is when I'm overseas. I want to feel like I'm an American every time I walk out that door.
Wow, well, first off, thanks for having me. And just to echo what everybody has said, what I want to see really come out of this movement is a few things. I mean, we're dealing with, like Mr. Frazier said, centuries of issues, centuries of systemic racism. But, you know, as someone who's a millennial, the things that were good enough for my grandparents, even for my parents, simply aren't good enough for me. You know, statues being removed is great because they never should have been there anyway. But now, just like just people said, it's time for access. And it's time basically to cut the check. You know, we need resources. When you look at the difference between Moncrief versus San Jose, is resources. When you talk about, you know, the health disparities that I dealt with in the pharmacy, I mean, the difference is resources, is education. So we have to be able to keep this movement pushing forward, keep beating the streets, and keep demanding things to be better for us. We have to get resources if we want things to change. And also, I can see, you know, it's one thing to read about stuff, it's another thing to hear it, it's another thing to see it. And technology has allowed us to see the modern day lynching of people that look like myself, the people that look like my friend, my dad. I mean, that right there should change the hearts and the minds of America, period. You know, this is not a history book to read, this is not black and white. This is a human being. These are human beings being killed on the street, without mercy. You know, we have to change that. And I believe, you know, Dr. King said it, 60, almost 70 years ago, that America's soul is at stake. It's still at stake. I mean, and what frustrates me is that, just like Mr. Frazier said, we're talking about problems that we've actually let fester. Now it's time to heal it. Now it's time to get it right, because, you know, as someone who, you know, loves the Lord and goes to church raised on the Bible, you talk about, you know, people coming out of Egypt or being lost in the wilderness for so long. I really believe the millennials, we are Joshua's generation. It's, I mean, because just like Tam says, like that stuff isn't good enough anymore. We're going to take it. It's time to go get what's ours. And I really hope that we can follow through with it and keep that energy going.
Thank you.
That was a really, really good word, man. You know, being with the 21st Men, we're all about giving men of color a voice. And I love this conversation because this conversation right now is doing just that. Because each and every person here is actually helping the voices that feel like they're voiceless. No matter what color you are, no matter what background you have. And so this is so beautiful that we get to do this in. I just want to add a couple of things because right now where we're at is constantly we're seeing on the news protests, and we're seeing one video after another surfacing about people of color going through serious hardships. And I love it because it's educating people now. It's educating people. You know, I didn't grow up in a way where I had many struggles. Matter of fact, it wasn't until I was probably like 13 when I realized that people looked at me differently because of my color. I had a kid who used to chase me through the neighborhood. His name is Tom. He's a white boy. Chased me through the neighborhood every day. He used to make me stand on the other side of the street in the morning, waiting for the bus. And it wasn't until that moment when I was standing on the other side of the street that I realized, because I had a view of me on one side being black and those on the other side being white. And I realized, is this because of my color? And I talked to my mom about it, she educated me. And that experience, I look back on and realize, I have to be raised differently. I have to be raised to look at the world differently. Not because I want to, but because the world looks at me differently. And right now, people are realizing that is so prevalent. This brother spoke on white supremacy. Something I didn't even think about, honestly. And as I began educating myself, I started realizing how prevalent it is. Started realizing how we have these Confederate statues up still, which makes no sense to me. That makes no sense why we still have Confederate statues up, even for outside of the race thing, saying that we, giving them glory still. Because, what are statues for? They're not for history, they're to honor. They're not for history, they're to honor. And to honor people who stood just firmly for slavery and no one doing anything about it is crazy. Now, do I think we should just be ripping them down? No, I think there's a better way to approach that. Because when you rip them down without proper action steps, then we don't know what it's going to be replaced with. It can be replaced with anything. As a matter of fact, you being a man of faith, I love that you brought that up because people are replacing these statues with other statues that are actually very satanic. Satanic in nature. I'll be honest with you, I'd rather have a statue up about a Confederate man than a satanic statue. And so, the reason why this is so important that we have these conversations, because not just to give a voice, but now we can be individuals that go forward with proper action steps. Because the problem is, we have a voice, but where are the voices of people in positions who can actually make a difference? Where are the actions of people who are in positions who can actually make a difference? And so this right here is what that's about. And as the 21st Amendment, we actually focus on those action steps. This is beautiful. You know why this is beautiful? Because we are in the heart of a place where there's a predominant race. Let's just be honest. It's black people. And the fact that we're here in a neighborhood talking about these issues, it speaks values. And a black-owned business, And so, though this is important to be in these positions, it's also important, we need to be in town hall. We need to be also in a position where we have an actual meeting in town hall. In the city hall, a town hall meeting. And the reason why that's necessary is because if we're really about this is great, this looks great, but no, we need to actually be great and do things that are great. Take action steps. This looks good on our resume right now, but I want to actually move forward. And we hosted an event here. Thank God for this brother running this restaurant where we cleaned up the neighborhood, where we talked about some action steps we want to go forward with. And a few of them are, we want to create a review committee that reviews the uses of force done by the police, that holds a semi-annual check on safety measures of police officers. One that's not, just funded by individuals who are biased. An actual nonprofit who is not biased. We want the city to fund voters education, that allows nonprofit to create education from a, unbiased stance on ballot measures and candidates and on candidates and bills. We want to create a reentry program for those that have served their time that creates a private database on non-violent convictions that are not available to the public until after the third offense. In addition, make public record laws much more strict. The reason why, I am a product of this right here. I did my time. I was in jail. And I got out. And mine were just misdemeanors. Misdemeanors are something that's pretty much legal today. Marijuana. And what I had to fight to go through just to get a regular job was absolutely insane. Why do we have prisons and jails if they're not proper, if they don't properly rehabilitate people? Then put them back in a situation when they're judged. I think people deserve an opportunity for at least nonviolent crimes to actually be seen as people once again after they serve their time. And this last thing I want to talk about is create a more fair funding for public education where all public schools receive equal funding. We all know that the majority of funding that goes to schools comes from property taxes. And so if you're in a lower income area, how much money is that school going to get? How is that equal? Why is the majority of the money come from that? I think these are conversations that need to be had more in detail. These are the action steps that are actually going to give people of color an opportunity to rise above and to be better individuals in society. I get it, black on black crime is real. I get it, it's on high levels. I'm not going to disregard that, but at the same time, let's not disregard the other truth as well. The things that fuel it. Because those things fuel it. And so if you really think that's an issue, if we really think that's an issue, let's handle the things that are feeding it. I was always taught, especially in ministry, the thing within you that exists is the thing that you feed. And so as people together, I think we can make a difference by deciding to take action steps that feed the right, changes we need.
Well, good morning, good afternoon now, Dr. James White, Heritage Christian Center. First, thank you so much for utilizing your platform. Thank you for caring. Thanks to all those who are here. It really does mean a lot that not only are you lending your voice, but you're putting your shoulder behind to push us forward. I will say very, very briefly, and I'll expeditiously move through this. I am after us being honest and not hypocritical. When COVID hit, I think we're in the best of times and the worst of times. COVID united us together. We saw a problem that was coming against humanity and human beings. We rallied together. Nobody wanted to stay home, but as humans, we knew that it would help humanity move forward if we all stayed home. Nobody wants to wear gloves or a mask or put hand sanitizer all over your face, kind of walk through a decompression time, going and coming from your home. Yet we did that because there was an issue that was plaguing humanity. This likewise is an issue plaguing humanity. And for America to be the leading of the world, the superpower of the world, and not deal with human rights issue, that's hypocrisy. So likewise, my wife and I, we founded an organization where we march every Sunday. It's not just young folks, it's educated folks with money who pay taxes, have businesses, and several houses. So we understand what's at stake. The soul of America has never been off the table. It has been up, and we have to grab it and reorganize it. I am hopeful that at times like this, we'll walk away with real action steps. We march every Sunday at 5 p.m. and for a minister of the gospel, after I teach the gospel, after I minister, after I counsel, to hit the streets with young folk every single Sunday, that takes a lot. It demonstrates our level of commitment. It's not just a faith-based coalition. We're partnering with other organizations around the country, around our city as well, to make sure we have, as the young man just stated, actionable steps. One of the things we want enforcement oversight. We do believe that Georgia laid it out real clear. When Rashad Williams was murdered, within 24 hours, the body cam footage was released. Under 24 hours, I set my alarm, it was under 24 hours, it was released. The GBI had investigated, came to their conclusion, likewise Atlanta had investigated, came to their conclusion, and we, the public, had access to the footage. Seeing the footage doesn't stop investigation from moving forward. We've been to restaurants where you can see the chef prepare the meal. That doesn't stop the chef from preparing the meal because I can see it. That simply allows me to see his or her expertise while the meal is being prepared. So if we have access to the body cam footage within 24 hours, it doesn't stop the investigation. We're not asking you to surrender it to us and not use it. Just allow us to see it. We are educated people, informed people. We can see clearly what is justified and what is not. We may not understand all policy, but we have good sense as it relates to that. Unqualified immunity, we want that released. We cannot hire a police force who has power over the citizens that it employs. Now you're a business owner. It would be ridiculous for your employees to think that they have power over you. Well, that's exactly what we've done with the police force. They have power over us, that their actions, we cannot take legal steps against a police officer who we pay. That makes absolutely no sense. Education is the next one. Not just education in the schooling, but education as it relates to voting. We voted people in and we're not holding accountable, and we're not aware that we actually can move to have them removed from office after a certain amount of time. You should not be applauding for doing something that makes life better for me. That's why I elected you. And to represent a small portion of our society that is horrible. And then economics, we want access to capital. And when I say we, I mean we as African Americans in this city, we as black folk in this city, we refuse to stand idly by and be pacified with crumbs when there is a kitchen with meals being prepared. So that's all I have to say on that. Now, this is really good move through it. I'm not sure if the moderator wants to say that.
First thing I want to do is just thank everyone for coming out today. For me, say this question basically means one thing. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with my son who will be 13, coming July 17th. And, we went through just a few things. We were just sitting there, and later on, while we were sitting there, Malcolm X came on. And we were sitting there watching it, and the fact that I had to explain to him
basically the same things that Malcolm were dealing with in the movie is still what we are dealing with now. It's just like, you know, George Floyd woke me up, but it made it personal for me once again, having to explain that to him and realizing that I dealt with it, my father dealt with it, his grandfather. I don't want that for my son. So I thank you all for coming here, and I hope that along with everyone here participating in the audience, we can really come up with, as the brother said, some actionable steps today. Thank you.
Let's get Gary.
Gary.
Let's get Gary.
I don't know. Let me know.
I apologize, Gary.
Mic check. Mic check.
Mic check. You need this?
There's this one too, I don't know if it's working.
Mic check. Councilman Dennis, are you on with us? Okay, thank you. What do you have to say for the people? Did you hear the question that went around about how do we progress forward? We're still, of course, positive in regards to the protesting and rallying, but what do we do regarding actionable steps in the urban community so that we can become more enlightened, become more educated, become more economically sound? What do you have to offer the citizens? Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can't hear him. No, Gary on the phone.
You have a mic? That's why.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Turn the volume up on your phone, turn the speaker up all the way, and then put the mic by it.
There you go.
Oh, Councilman? Yes.
Well, first of all, I thank you for having me. Thank you for putting this on. I think it's an amazing platform.
We're trying to get the speaker on. Gotcha. All right, try it again.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Well, first of all, Yolanda, I want to say thank you for having me, and thank you for your vision of having this platform and this opportunity for us to really talk about and express what we need to do and some of the things that we need to focus on as a community. So as an elected official, you know, I've listened to the people that you have, your guests you have today. But as an elected official, I think there's two pieces to this puzzle. One, it's the political power and influence, and then the other one is the economic power and influence. And I think we need both. I think the protesting, letting our voices be heard is great as we influence the political and policy decisions, but we also need strong economic power too as well. So I think in order for it to change, that will happen. And I just want to share with your audience one of the things that's working through the council, and it'll be in committees during the week of July. And let me say this too. Everybody that may look like us may not always be down for the cause. There's some people that want the status quo to stay the same because it gives them influence, it gives them power, and it benefits them and not the whole, and that's wrong. And so we as a group, we as a community, we need to identify those people and we need to root it out. And I just want to share this with you, which I found very appalling a few months ago when I discovered it. We have a small business program, not a race-based program in the city of Jacksonville. And the city of Jacksonville does over $400 million in goods and services. They procure $400 million in goods and services from vendors. And in 2003, 2004, there was a 20% mandate that all procurement, that all goods and services, the 20% had to be utilized, or 20% spent, so it's about $80 million. Well, in 2013, the administration who was in power in City Hall had that taken out. We lost about $60 to $70 million a year in goods and services going to small businesses.
Wow.
Those small businesses, some are minority, some are women-owned. And so if you look at 2013 to 2020, and you do the math, $70 million that is not circulating in our community, that's a huge major loss of economic power and continued degradation in our community. And so one of the bills I introduced a few weeks ago, and it's going to be heard the first week when we get back in July, is to put that language back to mandate 20% participation across the board in all procurement, the city of Jacksonville. So again, I mean, it's economic power as well as political power, because if there's dollars and money circulating in our community, we have better living conditions, better quality of life. People are employed, and guess what? When they have extra money in their pocket, they can go out and help fight the fight on the political front. Right. And so, again, I just wanted to share those thoughts as we talk about the protesting and policies, but we need to attack both at both angles, the political as well as the economic piece. So again, thank you, Rhonda, for putting this on and having me as one of your guests today.
Thank you. Question, I just want a rebuttal back to that. What do we do? Every one of us has said we have to do it, but how do we start taking those steps in regards to economic when it's already set up against? To me, when I fill out an application, why do you need to know if I'm black, white, Asian, or Hispanic? Am I American or I'm not? And that's where we have to take it, because when we put in for an application, if we need a building, if you need funding for something, those things are stacked up against us. How do we change those things within this city, within this community? How do we build the wealth that we need to come out? Because it takes the wealth and the power for us to come out, and we don't have it.
I'm not exactly sure of everything, but think about it. If the economy, if we have the economics right in our community, when there's candidates like Rhonda Peoples Waters is running for judge, right? And she wants a contribution. I have extra income and I'm going to donate, right? You have people like Albert Jefferson that's running for Congress. He needs a donation, to get his word out. I have extra disposable income. I can donate to his campaign. When people like Ben Frazier, when, his group is out advocating, on the social needs of the community, I can donate, to the Northside coalition. We have, the clergy here when, asking for, above and beyond the tithes, give some offering, because we're helping out in the community. We can do that, but it's like we're cut off at the knees on our economy, so therefore it kills our voice.
Yes.
And so again, we have to not only focus on on the politics, but we also have to focus on the economics. Yes. Now let me say this too. When I ran for office, I got contributions from individuals, whether it's groups, PACs, I got contributions. But one of the things that I let everybody that donated to my campaign, you may be donating to my campaign, it doesn't give you, you don't control me because you donate to my campaign. It may give you access because I may answer the call quicker than not. But it doesn't allow you to control me. And so That's what, we need to, let, our political leaders know that just because someone donates to your campaign, and their interest, total interest from from the community, you don't control me. You may have my ear, I may give you, a few minutes, but you don't control me. In saying that, that's the reason why we need to donate to our candidates, our, leaders, because, money does play a role. And so, again, it's back to that economic piece. Again, not just the political piece, but the economic piece.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to piggyback on what Councilman Dents had to say. And there is a very real need for us here today to totally explore the economics of this total equation. We would be remiss if we did not go with just a little bit more.
Yes.
Dr. King knew about it when he started the Poor People's Campaign before his death. Dr. William Palmer knows about it now, and he explored the Poor People's Campaign. We recognize that there is this link between economics, poverty, unemployment, crime, health, education, and welfare. Take, for example, zip code 32209. Some of you may be familiar with it. 34,000 people there. And it is predominantly black. It extends from Beaver Street to the south and to the north, all the way down toward Gulf there. Zip code 32209. 34,000 people. In some 10-block census areas, 50% of the people are living below federal poverty guidelines. Switch over to the east side, zip code 32206, 17,000 people. Some 10-block census areas, 50% of the people are living below federal poverty guidelines. Some of us right here in our hometown are living in third world conditions, septic tanks, and what have you. Education and healthcare disparities that are nothing short of horrific. So the question on the table is, what do you do? I'm suggesting that there has to be a Marshall Plan of economic redevelopment and community revitalization if we're going to turn this around. It's going to cost millions of dollars. The question then is, how do we pay for it? The Northside Coalition of Jacksonville stands up, speaks out against any and all forms of social, racial, and economic injustice. The question is, how do we pay for it? Well, I tried to talk to you about the police department that gets $500 million of your city budget, and you think you're going to keep giving them $500 million and them having not spending it effectively, can't resolve homicides 70%. They're shooting up your people who are also shooting up themselves, all right? So what I want to do is talk to you about where we're going to get the money from. I'm not saying we don't need police. When I call one, I want them to get here in a damn hurry. But the bottom line is, we've got to take some of that money and reinvest it into the community for community services or zip codes like 32209 and 32206. There are too many healthcare disparities, too many economic disparities, too many educational disparities for you to leave Sheriff Williams with his wish list asking for $6 million more this year. This is hogwash. You've got to get some of that money from the sheriff. When the mayor presents his budget July 15th, you need to tell the council, you need to tell the mayor, you need to tell the sheriff, no.
Absolutely not.
We're going to get some of that money back. I say at least 25%. And if you compare it to the budget from last year, I'm telling you, we could redirect $120 million.
Yes, and I said, do it.
We could do that overnight
Yes.
and redirect it for community services. It's time for us to make some radical differences in the way we handle the budget, how we police. The police are exacerbating the very problems they're supposed to solve.
Yes.
We need to reinvest some of this money. This is where we get it from. We need to talk about defunding JSO. Just get used to hearing it. That's a nice ring to it.
Yes.
Defund JSO.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
James.
Frazier. Okay, and we're gonna have, James, and then we're gonna have. Okay, we're gonna, James, Rashad, Hathaway. It's you.
Mic check.
You got a metal plate in your hand?
Probably. I used to hit people for a living.
I know.
But I don't even know, but whatever. I agree with everything Mr. Frazier said. My thoughts on a lot of this is there are people who actually have systems that are already there for us to follow. One of the things that made me not want to leave Jacksonville after I was here, because it was, I mean, I'm from Tallahassee, and Tallahassee got his own set of problems too now, but it was kind of depressing watching the news, because they shot up a teen club my first week here. I was like, good night. You're supposed to just have a good time. But I read this book called Powernomics by a guy named Dr. Paul Anderson. It's been around for a tremendously long time. So a lot of these issues that we have festering is that everybody has these great ideas, but nobody wants to follow. But he talked about a 5-building approach. And the first thing is economic foundation. That's the first level. Before you even think about academics and justice and political things, just build up the economics. And he laid out 10 actual African-American promised lands. And one of those cities was Jacksonville, Florida, because of the natural thing that we have here, which is a ton of black people. Yeah, I think if I believe correctly, it's 33%, at least that's when he wrote the book. That's a third of the people here. If we wanted to affect change, it's within us, with the system that we already have in place. Now, if you want to change the system, we can get people in the system. I remember very fondly, there was an election with a sheriff that wasn't too far long, with a guy who had a tremendous amount of experience going up against another guy. And in a city that's 33% African American, to not actually win that election, it's kind of baffling. But it is what it is. Things happen, political things. People have campaigns, and I don't campaign for or against anybody. I just thought that was rather interesting. But what I will say is this: we have a city that's 33% African American, and we also, which represents one of the largest consumer groups in America, with access to funds that everybody has access to. But we have people who are affluent, we have people who are poor, but they also have access to a money system that a lot of people don't, as far as groceries. So what made this, when I got a chance to see sometimes how we treat our treasures here, I found out about Revolt Girls Basketball team. I used to have a gym where I trained athletes, trained a ton of athletes, tons of guys in the NFL. I noticed that they didn't have basketballs, I noticed they didn't have things, so I got a chance to know the Sheila. She's a phenomenal woman. I trained them for free, something that I charge other people a lot of money to do. But we went to the Bob Hayes, I think it's the Bob Hayes Center or something like that? Legend Center. Across the street from the Legend Center, there's a delicious, I like food that's awful too, but that food is delicious. I think it's Tony's, whatever. But I looked over there and I saw a shopping center that was completely empty with a church. No offense to churches, do your thing, whatever you do, but that, just it's two things that the hood really don't need right now. We don't need another church and we don't need more sports games. We got plenty of that, that's covered. We need opportunities and the things to do that. So again, what I see is if we wanted to go to the city, present something to make that land to where a guy like me who owns a business can actually rent that space for cheaper. Which means now that you have a business there, that means it's within walking distance for people to come there. To either pay for services or actually get employed. Where I live at now, I can walk 3 miles on South Bay Meadows Boulevard to the left or to the right. I run into 2 Publixes, a Winn-Dixie, some new place, some new shopping center, I don't even know what the heck it's called. Tons of restaurants, tons of other things. That same distance from where I was at, there's nothing. See, that's where we gotta really go in. And we don't have to necessarily go and beg Publix to do it. There are African American shopping, grocers that you can actually petition and be able to come in there, and you got food stamps, which is printed money. I just learned about food stamps. I'm telling you right now, I'm not ashamed. I got $1,000 because of I guess the stuff with the school system. I just got it. I didn't apply for it. It came in the mail. It would be great to use that into that. I'm sure I got it because the school which I don't understand, which you brought up a very good point with the property taxes. My son goes to Twin Lakes, which is a lot of, I know what my property tax is, and it goes to that school, but that school is considered a Zone 1 school because people can bust into it. So that's why my son got it. But the thing is that they automatically filled it out. So I say that because there are processes that are already here. There are ways to capture it. There's a movement going on through social media, support black businesses. Right. Support your own. He talks about that in Powernomics. I'm not support good business. Not just because they're black. Support good business. When I come here to speak, I make sure I get something to eat because my man, if he couldn't cook, I check, but he can cook. And I have no problem spending the money there. So that's the first thing we got to do is start looking for alternatives to do that. Also, let's look. This is not trying to sound pro or against police, but I do know this. There is there's a police athletic league in every city. Police athletic league used to have a program called Weed and Seed. The only reason I know about it is because the one good job my mama had was when the city of Tallahassee actually went and found the funding to bring in Weed and Seed, and the whole concept was the police officers go and weed out the bad element and seed positive. I don't mind giving them $500 million. But what I do, if I'm giving you $500 million, I need you to put that back into my communities. I need you to present programs. I need the police officers' first time for me meeting them, not to be when they hit me upside the head with a club. Because I believe if you knew, like if we know Crazy Joe is Crazy Joe, and the police officer know that that's Crazy Joe, he's probably not going to shoot Crazy Joe first because he knows Crazy Joe crazy. Yes. But you only know that when you're actually immersed into the neighborhood and you're not an outsider. So again, I say that's just one example, but there are things within the police department. Probably if we have a liaison, they can tell us about some of these things. If we have a city council liaison, they can tell us how to get them. I knew about it. I knew about programs for the city council when this stuff came in because of who I had access to. My son's godfather happens to be there. He talked to me about some things that he was going to do. I talk to the people in my media circle about that. But if you're for us, and you are one of us, and you see this, you need support, or there's an opportunity for us to get a bag, tell us about the damn bag. Before it comes to the point of being voted. So again, economics, there are systems that we have, and we got to be able to do it. We got to do a better job of taking advantage of it.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
That money still has to be flowing.
I know you got a lot to say.
Right. I definitely like to address the economic aspect, and I think and Frazier put it proper. There's two sides to it. The political aspect, we have to have access to the city's budget. We are part of the city, so a part of the budget needs to go back to these communities to rebuild these communities. The faith-based coalition with that's the group that we march with every Sunday. My wife and I at 5 p.m. Sunday we start at the Police Memorial Building, 501 East Adams. I encourage you, East Bay, show up, rock out with us. But nonetheless, starting in August, we're doing a buy black for the entire month. There was a couple of things that happened at the beginning of this month. 4th, don't buy anything. The 7th, buy all black. We think it's better to support black businesses for a solid month sustained. Now with it, we often hear, well, I'm only going to support black business if it's good. I have pushback because we didn't do a run on Wells Fargo when they were stealing money from us. And I have real pushback. I have pushback because we didn't do a run on AT&T when they were throttling our what is it called? Our data plan. You remember those, when AT&T, all this is public stuff. And I have a ton of these. Some of these are not as well known, but the ones that are well known, there was no run on AT&T. The stocks didn't crash. People weren't jumping from AT&T to Verizon, T-Mobile, or Sprint. We stayed right there and did business with AT&T, even though they were stealing from us every month. You pay for a data plan, they're not going to tell you that they're going to try to you. The federal government sued them, but they didn't give the money back to the customers. That's incredible. So as a customer, I'm paying for a service. The company, the Fortune 500 company that I'm doing business with, who has access to capital, totally different from a mom and pop, they were stealing from me. The federal government sues them, but I don't get my money back. That just doesn't seem fair. Wells Fargo, who's in the business of lending money, was stealing money from their customers, adding to their accounts. Y'all all know this, just hit the news. Sure, but there was no run on Wells Fargo. But if a local African-American owned establishment doesn't have the type of service that we're accustomed to in other environments, we don't support them. I think that's unfair. The access to capital is not there. The access to skill is not there. It is insensitive to tell a man without shoes to pull himself up by his bootstrap when the others were given shoes, given a grant, given experience and education. The farmers in this country were given grants, given education and guaranteed loans, guaranteed business by our federal government. So they got good because they got support. Our local black businesses need our consistent, intentional support. Not simply because they're excellent at what they do, but because they deserve our support. So from a political standpoint, the budget needs to be shifted, 100%. And I am pro-police. Make no mistake about it. Kendo, I call him top cop, have been for years. I am pro-police. I do not think that the police should take the majority of the budget when we have education disparities and economic disparities. We do not need another shoot spotter out there. No, we paid for body cams. That was incredibly expensive. We paid for body cams and yet we are denied access to it. That makes absolutely no sense. I'm not going to buy a house and I don't have the key. Out of the question. So with it, we have to be very intentional and very deliberate. So to know what this list is or to add a business, go to the Faith-Based Coalition Facebook page. Faith-Based Coalition Facebook page. Add the business there to it. In August, we want to do the whole month. Doctors, lawyers, grocery stores, gas stations, everything, nail salons. We're not just interested in one or another. Restaurants, bakeries, you name it. If it is a business in our community, we want to intentionally leverage our support for it. No doubt about it.
We're going to talk about voting before the time gets what's on.
Okay.
Back and I'm pretty sure you'll have something to say to that. What did you have to say, Mr.
Yes, I just want to say just a few things. When it comes down to the political side, we've got to do a little bit more than just say go and vote. Right. We've got to educate voters. Now, allow me to tell you, I'm so happy to see that the black body politic is changed. It's no longer composed here in Jacksonville of black preachers with shiny suits and shoes. I am so happy to see so many emerging black voices, so many new thought leaders, and I'm sitting amongst them right now. It makes me recognize that this isn't just a moment, that this is in fact a movement. This revolution is happening before your very eyes. Now let me tell you something. There are 55 circuit court judges, only 5 of which are black. You've got a qualified black woman, been trying to be a judge, 21 years experience. Wow. And we're slow about supporting her. Now, I'm a 501(c)(3). Doesn't bother me to tell you that I don't support candidates, but I do support and endorse causes. I support this cause. No doubt. Of Rhonda people want. No doubt. Now let me tell you something else. Ken Jefferson, I apologize for every black voter in Jacksonville. Because you should have been the sheriff. Nothing that this sheriff we have right now he's doing, that you could not do better. We made a mistake. We made a mistake. I apologize. We still with you, brother.
Yes,
We know you're qualified.
yes.
And if you decide to come back around again, I assure you, we recognize now, we've grown up now, and we'll support you. We need new black candidates who are going to be held accountable. We don't want people who get in office and don't do what they're supposed to do, who get lockjaw and forget where they came from. They will be handled just like we handle any other white politician who does not do what he's supposed to do. We will work to get rid of them. We must begin to create a renaissance in terms of accountability and revive support for the people we should support. Ken, Rhonda, and there are others, not just you, that we must revisit and review and support and give them all of our energy and all of our strength, flesh of our flesh and blood of our blood. We're behind you.
Yes.
Know that.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna ask, because, Mr. Attorney Phillips, which is the only one here who's, not of the urban color, how do you feel we should go forward? Here you go. Your thoughts.
I mean, clearly we need more representation, because you can't get out of the hole if you stay in the hole. If you keep doing the same thing and nobody's digging, we're gonna stay in the hole. And that's the problem. This is all good in theory, but how many times were you put up before the governor, Rhonda?
13 of the 16 applications.
13 times. She's gone before a governor, a Republican white governor, and been told no, despite imminent qualification. And generally, somebody in the state attorney's office or general counsel's office being appointed to those positions, which are tied into the political infrastructure.
Right.
And so and let's talk about the last time Rhonda went up, when they had a potential fair election that was taken away by an early retirement so the governor could appoint that position. And so until we figure out how to express enough pain and suffering and voice, we're going to keep having the same problem.
Exactly.
And so I encourage everybody to go vote. But you know what? We were told, and we all voted, to allow that whole amendment thing, that constitutional amendment, that we were supposed to allow the disenfranchised people who should be voting. But we've got that tied up in courts. We've got gerrymandering. We've got voter suppression. We've got all of these issues that and Ben said it best, so pick up your Folio Weekly next week, you're gonna hear the cover story from Ben Frazier. But Ben was asked, spoiler, what's the difference now? Ben was 10 years old, when Accidental Saturday happened, he saw it. And what's different now? And he said, white people are listening. And white people are listening because black people are reporting. And white people are reporting. But it's because they finally see it and they don't just hear about it, that there's people that are outside their bubble that are moved. But if we don't all get moved, if we don't find a way to approach everybody and say, look, this is a second chance. We can't fix what happened yesterday necessarily, but damn it, we can fix what happened tomorrow. And if we don't do it, and stop with the BS of false flags and taking down, I said on the steps of the, did I not say it on the steps of the pretrial detention facility, they're going to take down that monument just to announce that the convention's coming. And Gundy them said, no, they're not bringing that convention here. I said, they're bringing that convention.
That's how it works.
Yes.
That's how the system keeps spinning its nasty timbers. And so we've just got to vote for people that aren't politicians, that are people that have had careers, that have worked in the system and will improve.
Thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I want to ask you right quick, how can we deal with this, the crime that we're doing? You know, before we had, you know, like red cup programs, the different things where the kids could have their time. Even a nightclub, you know, we have club soda, different things, you remember that back in the day? When we could be able to get those things off our chest and have somewhere to go. Is it programs? Is it the money? What is it that seems to be kicking up, that it's a murder every night and it's getting younger by the day of the kids with the guns in their hands? What do we need to do as a society, as a community, in regarding the programs, economic, to try to stop some of this violence?
I don't know if I'm just holding myself. Okay, I'm here. Speaking of crime, I just got notified somebody just got shot and killed and all that.
Somebody got killed?
You know, yeah.
Jesus.
Just I know the person just got killed. First, let me just say, Ben, thank you for your kind words. Pastor White, thank you for your words. And thank you, even though you didn't know I was sitting right here. You mentioned your mother in Tallahassee was part of Weed and Seed.
Yes, sir.
I ran Weed and Seed here in Jacksonville back in the day. And you described it accurately, where police officers go into an area, a targeted at-risk area as they call it, and they weed out the crime, but they don't weed out the crime and leave.
Right.
They stay there. They go in the community and meet the people. That was part of my platform. I'm not trying to give a platform because I'm not running anything right now. But that was part of my platform. We need to go in, take out the bad, draw out the bad, and don't leave them with just the memory of the bad, but plant seeds of economics, jobs, opportunities, all the things that makes up a community. And that's what happened. And you saw the resurrection of the Rural Avenue area when that happened. It was a thriving area. Put up new apartments, ordinary stamp, 13th and Myrtle area, that go in, they put up new apartments. People had pride in their neighborhoods, they kept the lines up. You didn't see a lot of crime going on. Kids had activities that were going where the police officers were actively involved with that sort of thing. I say all that to say this, that's what we need. Not necessarily weed and seed, that's the good concept. We need community policing where officers aren't doing drive-bys. Right. We got enough drive-bys with the thugs shooting up people, but they need to stop doing drive-bys and stop when they're not on call and talk to the community, introduce themselves, make the community aware of who they are, what they're planning, what they're trying to accomplish, and work with the people. That will kill the no snitch rule in the neighborhood. The reason why I know is because when I wrote a beat many years ago, that's what I did. I didn't try to arrest everybody that I came across. I didn't try to hook up every black man that had less than 20 grams of marijuana on. Back then, I'm talking about back in the early 90s. You had a road showing you, that's your warning. Don't let me catch you dirty again. You got a free pass. You got 20 or less, you got to go. You got to go. And I was young then, I could run. So I was hoping they would run. I could do some exercise. I just had OCD, I don't want to get my uniform dirty though. Stay stars. Anyway, community policing is a great benefit for both the police department and the community, simply because it shows transparency, number one. Number two, it shows that you care. That's what's missing right now. There's nothing that shows that they care, they being the sheriff's office, outside of enforcement.
Yes.
You cannot arrest your way out of this.
That's right.
People couldn't, we had a violent weekend, just this past weekend, 5 people dead. in less than 24 hours. We're mimicking Chicago, even though their numbers are much higher, but, based on our city, we're mimicking Chicago.
Right.
So until the leaders of the pack, Mike Williams on down, get out of their seats and get on the streets and show people that they care, it's going to continue that way. Thank you for your words, Ben, because I lost by 2 points. And I'm going to take one example. You mentioned 32209's got 34,000 people in there. I'm going to take one precinct out of that 09 area. Bowie Clark Park. We have 300 registered voters that reports to that precinct. If you had to guess on election day how many of the 300 that was registered in that precinct voted, how many would you say? Anybody? Throw a number. No, it's 1 0. 30. 50.
20.
10. 10. I swept the primary. I have a lead of 22,000 votes more than the nearest competitor, which was Mike Williams. Everybody else was just a shade. 22,000 votes. We do not lose a race when you got a 22,000 vote lead.
Right.
You don't lose. I lost in the black community.
Yes.
When we look at the number, I lost in my community. I grew up in 09. I grew up at 4229 Moncrief Road.
Did that hurt?
Washington Heights. Yeah, it still hurts.
I know it does.
It still hurts. And when people say, you gotta do it again, you gotta do it again, well, what you gonna do?
I don't want to keep getting hurt.
You wanna do it again?
Yes.
You wanna do the same thing you did again, which was not vote?
Yes.
Right.
They went to the primary, they showed up.
Real talk.
They showed up and they showed out. They let everybody know, that's our man.
They got completely.
We knock on doors. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, minimum. Knocking on doors, meeting people, kissing babies, my list was chapped. But anyway, aside from that, that's what's going to group this community together. Now is the time. If we had an election in August for the sheriff, it'd be a wash right now.
Yes.
If I was a candidate, I believe.
We want it back, all right?
There's no doubt about it.
I don't have that glass of Kool-Aid right now, but that could change. That could change. But last thing I want to say
No doubt
is
about it.
we didn't see those work. Community policing definitely works. It's actually, we didn't see it was actually federally funded. It was money from outside of that $500 million budget. So it's not the sheriff can write that in. Matter of fact, they just got a $2 million grant to bring back community policing. Now, that $2 million is going to run out. And what they're saying is when it runs out, you need to be prepared to pick it up from your budget if you want to continue that particular program. So, but it's not $6 million like he's asking for now. It's not $6 million. And not only that, they just got the grant, so they don't need to ask for any money for that. So if you see a line item that says community oriented policing, that's a shame. All right.
Yes, if I could just say, we cannot leave here without voter education.
Right.
I don't know if you all know, but almost 80,000 people have requested their ballot by mail. Almost 80,000 people. We almost had that number to vote in the last election. So what does that mean to us? That we have got to do the same. That we have got to go to the Supervisor of Elections website and you request your absentee ballot. That's one way to vote. And if you choose not to utilize that absentee ballot, you have a second way, which is early voting. But we don't know how that's going to turn out. We don't know what the status of our city will be when early voting, August the 3rd, comes around. So that's why you have that absentee ballot as your just in case option. If you choose to show up for early voting, then you won't turn in that absentee ballot. And then you have a third option, which is to show up on election day, August the 18th. You have got to make sure that that is your priority. Everybody needs to spread that word. We have never elected an African-American female judge. Never elected. And it's 2020 in our city. That is shameful on us. You're talking about what that means to the ones that are committing the crime, where you're showing them what their worth is, because you won't put people that look like them in these positions of power so that they can be mentored. That's a way of mentorship, when they can look across the room and say, wow, she did it. She overcame those odds. And so I hope that we take this message to say we have the power. We're going to go to the polls. And we also don't want people to say that but don't follow it up with action. So I hope, John, that means that you'll support me and you'll allow me to put a sign up, because we know that you're with us, but we can't just say it without action, okay? I love you.
No, you can't do that. So the reason I'm supporting your candidate, the opposite person, is because she was there when it mattered for a family. We've never done business together. We've never had a case together. And Aaron Perry was there when Brandon Green was murdered and walked his family through that. So yeah, I'm supporting Aaron Perry. I don't think that was appropriate. And, you know, we can talk about it. We talked about it before. We can talk about it after. But, you know, I don't appreciate it.
And that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about systemic racism and institutionalized racism. When have we ever been in a position to be able to help you? We can't get that access. That's all this is. I love you, John, but I am just saying that it's not intentional. It is those backroom deals that never give us that access.
Right.
And that's all I'm saying.
That's good.
No, these are conversations that we have to have.
We have to have it.
They're uncomfortable, they're difficult, they cut deep, but wounds heal over time. Trust me, they heal over time. So, I know y'all are gonna work it out. Why can't we have debate? I know you can argue with a white colleague and say what you need to say. We should be able to say what we need to say with one another and not have the bitter taste left in our mouth, and now we lost the progress that we made. We don't want to take 10 steps back. We can come to a compromise. It's all about compromise, but that's why we're here, to get these voices heard and to be able to continue to connect and network. This is just a nexus point, this show, to have these type of hard conversations, because we have to have them, but that's why we have to create them. Because if not, we wouldn't have these conversations.
And it's not gonna always be pretty either. It's not gonna be sweet, it's not gonna be any of that stuff. Some things are gonna be difficult, we're gonna have to make some hard decisions. Listening to everybody, and especially about the economics, I was touched because, and getting ready for this, I did some research, and some of the numbers that I found personally were appalling. And I was very interested in, like, what we have going on currently now, as far as the movement and how we can, you know, just, I don't know, harness the energy without us tearing each other apart over mute points. Because I understand exactly what John is saying, but I also understand what Ms. Waters feels, her frustration knowing that she's qualified and just constantly running into that glass ceiling.
The most qualified.
Say so, man.
The most.
Say so.
The most.
I'm sorry, could we step away?
Sage, can I get a question?
No, I mean, no, these gentlemen have something to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, because what you were talking about, that was my area, Sherwood. Growing up, when Sage earlier mentioned, we used to have a great roller skate, kind of like the roller balance thing that went on at ATL, and that whole area was thriving until they decided to move the Winn-Dixie down the street. But now it's just left over there empty. And I think personally, one of our biggest problems is redlining and also gentrification of the neighborhoods. And I was wondering if any of you had any thoughts on how we can tackle it.
And are you familiar with the term CDFI?
A little bit.
Community Development Financial Institution? That's a designation given by the federal government to banks as well as credit unions that are specifically set aside to fund areas like we're talking about. And in my economic plan, I have that big and bold because that's where it's going to start. It does start with finances, because I always use this example. They'll give me a home loan for $330,000. They'll give me a car loan for $50,000. They'll give me a credit card for $10,000. All this is done one within 30 days, one within 7 seconds, one within 3 seconds, but that same bank wouldn't give me $2,000 to start my pharmacy or my pharmacy technician program.
Speak to that, sir.
That's a problem. But when you have people that have been in leadership and that's not thinking ahead or not looking at best practices, because I'm a best practice guy. Just like James said, it's people doing stuff, it's areas doing stuff all over the country, but you have to be exposed to it, and you have to be humble enough to say, you know what, let's take that and bring it here. Because when you look at Charlotte, when you look at Houston, when you look at Dallas, Atlanta, Orlando, all these other places, they have CDFIs that's being utilized for more than just mortgages. They're growing businesses. And when I look at North Florida is essentially almost like a flyover. When you think of Florida, you don't think about Florida until you get to Orlando, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. And why is that? That's because we have no economic growth. That's because we don't have people in place that are thinking like we need to be thinking, pushing us forward. Because like I said, all this stuff is great, but if you don't have money, this is America. The only thing that's free is salvation. You gotta have money. You gotta have people in positions that's going to bring that money down, and that's why money, because it starts there. You know, you improve the economics, you improve education. You improve education, you improve health. You improve all those things. Watch how crime goes down. You know, in district, I know we were talking about Jacksonville, but in the 5th Congressional District, you have the poorest zip code in the state of Florida, 32304 in Tallahassee. You have the poorest county, as in Madison County, in the state of Florida. You have Gaston County, which has the lowest healthcare outcome, just ranked last in the state of Florida. And guess what? All those people in those counties, the majority look like us.
Oh yeah, I know, I'm a Florida State man.
Right, so we gotta make some big changes because we're at a boiling point. We have no more time to waste. If we don't do something now, we might not have a second chance because we keep getting second chances, chance after chances. But if it doesn't happen now, hey, and just like we got Mr. Jefferson right here, great man. Could you imagine what he could have done with his city?
I voted for you.
But now he's weary because we let him down.
Yes.
We can't do that anymore because anybody who ran for anything, you sacrifice your time, which means your family, your regular life, everything that makes you normal because you want to serve. And you don't want a pat on the back for that. It's just I know he's weary. Because myself, just like Miss People's Waters, I know it's that time, it's that fourth quarter. We're a little weary right now. But we need your support because it's right there. Right there, that new vision, that new energy. We gotta get that stuff in place or we might not have a second opportunity.
Thank you. Anybody else?
The only thing I was gonna say is, whatever time we would allot for me, I feel like since we're talking about the community and these people showed up, I don't know if you were gonna give them an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone have a
Someone
question?
from the audience have a question?
I'll take what's on.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Vince?
That's right, Vince here.
How you guys doing today? I'm also with the 21st Amendment, but I wanted to discuss something real quick. A couple of things that were touched that I really want to talk about. First one is the councilman who was on the phone. If you break down the word control, it means influence. Okay? If I give you my money and I give you my vote, I want to be able to influence your actions. I don't want to use the word control because it has social connotations. I, as a Dominican man, as a Latino in this community, I wish I could empower my other Afro-Latinos to literally actually make a voice and stand. But sometimes, we have a lot of colorism in our community that we have to break down as well. And one of the biggest things is realizing, my sisters and brothers, y'all black, so I need y'all to get on it. So, but what I want to say is that I don't agree with that notion. I think that I know I shouldn't control in the idea of manipulation, but there should be a level of influence, and that the word control actually means to influence. And that's what that actually, if you break down the word, so I have to say that. But one of the biggest things we can't do is wait on city funds. We can't. Nonprofits need to step up their game, and they need to get organized. They need to push it. Stop being a nonprofit that's not organized. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't work. So the 21st Amendment is empowering that through a I Stand program, and I spoke about it at our community event. I'm hoping Miss Peoples Waters, you get on board with that with us because I know that you said you want to be a part of that. August 15th, the website launches, and what it does is it empowers our businesses to put $20 a month into it, just $20 a month. Do you know that the census puts over 300,000 black people here in Jacksonville, and only 200,000 white people here in Jacksonville? it means we have control. We're not using it, they don't want us to use it, they don't want us to have a voice, and we need to. So I wanna say that as an organization, we have different sections. We have the community section, the professional section for networking and educating professionals, and to build our own communities up in the classroom and on campus. We want to aim to build a lifelong fraternity for men of color throughout their entire life and be supported by that. I love what you're doing. Man, the Northside Coalition is amazing as far as organizing and keeping the voice and keeping it going. I appreciate what you do so much. I just love it. I love seeing people put their voice out. As far as politicians are concerned, and as far as people who are running, this is your platform. This is something that I'm going to be looking. I'm going to look at when you make when like as a voter. I'm going to look at it when you say something and then you don't honor it. I'm going to look at it when you do honor something that you said you wouldn't honor. I'm going to look at all of that, and I'm going to hold that standard. But I also believe that you should hold our standard as well to us. What we want should matter as much to you as it does to us, and that's important to understand. So that's really what I wanted to say.
It's the power of the vote.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else in the audience have something? Yes,
I got a question, actually, because I've heard a lot of talk about elections and turnout, and I've seen a lot of efforts to get people registered to vote, which is great. But we just heard that it wasn't a registration problem, it's a show-up problem. So I'm wondering, between Northside Coalition and everybody else that's here, what are we going to do to organize on Election Day to make sure that those people who are registered to vote actually vote? And early elections, how are we going to facilitate making sure that all these people get out and vote? Is it phone calls? Is it shuttles to the polls?
And I can just add quickly that there are some great efforts, and I know being Frazier, will enlighten us as well, to galvanize people to do some souls to the polls, even though we don't have our churches actually in operation, Pastor White. Mm-hmm. We know that you all are still just as powerful. So we're leaning on those, obviously church facilities and other organizations to make sure that we educate people and motivate people. And the big thing is we have to make sure that people have the passion to come to the polls, that they understand that they have the ability to change. And I'll just say lastly, that judicial races are often overlooked. So our motto is to tell people to start from the bottom of the ballot. Right. That's where you'll see the judicial races that'll have the most impact on your life, but are not at the top. So you start at the bottom of the ballot and work your way up. And we're hoping with that message, people will understand and be encouraged to come to the polls.
And just one thing, because that's what I was hoping when Reggie Gaffney, the councilman, was supposed to come, because I was trying to be in discussion with him in regards to November's around the corner. And I don't see much movement going regarding getting people voted and registered, because you have to have enough time to fix issues. And there's not a lot of movement and not a lot of voting drives or registration drives that are going on to make sure that we can get the people out. So we do need to get organized. And I don't know, I'm just putting it out here, that we need to get together. You used to be outside of the Winn-Dixie or the Publix, just with the form, or down there at the supervisor of elections. But we need to get started now, because if you have any issues and you can change addresses and do all those things, we're not going to have time before November. So we're going to organize, we need to do it now. Yes.
Can I just say that it is imperative that you remember the three words that I offered you today: agitate, educate, organize. We already know that this upcoming election is going to be affected by the global pandemic. There's something new happening here, folks.
Yes.
You understand, we used to canvass, remember?
Yes.
Over the past 2 years, our organization has touched more than 5,000 households, carrying a message of stop the violence and increase the peace. We've not been able to get out there. We can't knock on doors. We can't breathe on people right now. I mean, this whole dynamic has changed. So it's going to have to be more technology driven in terms of how we approach not only voter registration, voting itself, but mobilization as well. It's just a whole new set of dynamics and mechanics in place right now and reaching out to people. And we actually don't know as we sit here today what the heck is going to be like between now and November.
Correct.
We don't know, it's spiking right now. RNC might have to go somewhere else. They're already thinking about it.
He said he's flexible.
Right. And so that voting and what happens, they talked already, Dr. Fauci said another spike in November. We don't know what the heck is going on right now.
So is it absentee ballots? Should we be requesting that like you said, so that we are already on hand? I mean, you, Mr. People's Voter, you, Mr. Chester, you're right. How do you?
I have
You
a
have a
question.
question or?
You got a question?
I have a question for Mr. Chester. I actually live in the 32206 area, and me and my partner with Florida Chicks Love Johnson, they just started. I'm always asking her because I don't understand. Like yesterday, we were at the town center, and I was like, "Why do we have to go to the town center when I want to go to a certain level of place to eat or a certain level of place to shop? But why isn't it? It's just we're not even a Walmart, you know, in 32 right here in Northwood or anything. Like, what's the reason? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like those people, they live in houses, they own houses, they have money. Is it a particular reason, or what can we do so that I don't have to ride 30 minutes just to go to get me a nice pair of shades or get me something or have a nice sit-down meal or what's the reason? Why isn't there anything over here? Or what can we do to change that?
Right, that's a pretty loaded question, but the short version would be when they were drawing the plans out for all that stuff, we were not at the table.
Right.
They were not considering that. Now, from a financial and business standpoint, what a business would do, they would survey the area. And when you're looking at a lower income area, chances are they're not going to go over there because they don't have a heart for you. They can care less, but because they know you're going to come over there. That's why they can move over there. But that's why when it comes to supporting black businesses, we have entrepreneurs that I've seen people that sell shades that have nice restaurants. They may not be the Cheesecake Factory, but it'd be something that we can support in our neighborhood that's more likely to come. And my thing is we have to build that up as well as increase the income per capita to get other businesses to come that way. But unfortunately, when they survey the area, they're looking like, okay, where am I more likely going to be successful? And then they understand that you're going to come over. I was just talking to somebody about that when we have St. John's Town Center, and you have River City Town Center. Yeah, you have no major department stores over there. Like, we don't shop. But that comes with the planning. That comes with that systemic racism that we're talking about now. But my thing is we're going to have to build up from the inside so we look more attractive. But we also need to support businesses that do want to come in our neighborhood that look like us.
Nah, it's just kind of more so to kind of piggyback off what he said, and what I would say, it's really, it comes back to this, all of this, it can find a common theme with all of this, and it's support. It doesn't have to be all, like, we don't have to all say we're gonna vote for this one person, we're gonna do this, but we have to at least have the opportunity to support and be able to, and the way you can get a seat at the table is by essentially disruption. One of the things that we have, we're really, especially here on Twitter, African Americans are taking advantage of is internet e-commerce. So like these glasses right here, I love them. It's a young lady, I think she's out of Chicago or whatever. Pay $10 for them. She sells shades. I was just using that as an example, but again, there's people like that here in Jacksonville. You find that website. You develop that you support that website, they get the money, the next step is they get a brick and mortar. Because brick and mortar is very expensive.
Right.
The bigger part of that too is, again, once we get our economic base solidified, we can really come in and, like I think my Dominican friend said, we actually can influence. I'm not here to get into all of that. If I give you 10 racks, I ain't giving you 10 racks just for you to pick up the phone. I'm giving you 10 racks when some stuff happens with the city. You gonna call me and say, James, you need to go put your name in for this application because you're gonna, odds are high, you're gonna want 10 racks again. And if you can make sure I got money in my pocket, it increases those opportunities. So those are the ways that we actually do that. Then we can actually have impact because one of the things, this is actually a friend of mine, Brandon, brought this up. For a lot of people who have businesses, I believe 90% of the small businesses in Jacksonville don't have a brick and mortar, but they couldn't get the loans that 10% of the businesses got. And now this is one that hopefully got it, but most of the African Americans and other races got X out of that. But if we actually have the economic voice, we can do that. Now this is something that's crazy and it's also dynamic that we have as African Americans. A lot of it had to do with the civil rights and the organization, utilizing the churches, utilizing the mosques, utilizing fraternities, utilizing sororities that we somehow have forgotten how to do at this point. We could get that active there, but when I look at what the Hispanic community, they have an agenda, but they don't have anywhere near as many organizations that we have. There's like again, I talk about McDonald's, there's Little India. I call it Little India, I hope I'm not racist, please don't cancel me. But that's what it looks like. It's a bunch of Indian restaurants on Bay Meadows, right when you cross Bay Meadows and Southside Boulevard. They didn't go get no votes for that. They pulled their resources, they did it, and they support themselves. I trained a good amount of them. One kid trained with me for about, I want to say a year. Got old enough to go take it, and then started training all the other kids. And I lost a significant part of my business. Not mad at it. I understood the game and what they were doing. It's called apprenticeship. Something that we don't do. Something that we stopped doing. When I grew up in the hood, I wanted to be a dope boy, I'm not gonna lie. But I wanted to be a dope boy because they had the money. And they had the car, and they didn't have to catch a city bus to be able to go to the mall and go get some nice thread. They were able to drive a fancy car. But out of my same neighborhood, the only other people that were able to do that were the guys who could run. Now we were talking about, Dickie was talking about this in '93. You gotta have a wicked jump shot, you gotta sell crack rock. That's not good options when we have people out of the hood who are lawyers, who are pharmacists, who are potential judges. So I mean, those are some of the things that we really have to do. And again, to quote another movie, my man Furious, and with the Boys in the Hood, they said, at this point, we gotta stop being afraid of wrong people. So I go, now I might not go at night, but I go to different areas and I talk to kids about.
You be able to go at night?
Well, I mean, I gotta spend time with my kids too. That's why I don't train as much. But my thing is when I go there, I don't go as James Coleman, former NFL player, former a guy who has even business on. I go with something that's even more rare. I go as James Coleman, media member. Where I'm one of 4 African Americans in sports journalism, full time in the city of Jacksonville. That I've gave the numbers. That's 33% African American. That covers a football team that's. They say 70%, but that look a lot more than 70% out there. I think they count the light-skinned guys as white. But again, 70%. But when even then, like, I didn't know that I didn't know that black people did this job until I accidentally got it. Because when I got interviewed, I never got interviewed by somebody who looked like me. I got interviewed by somebody from a completely different culture that did not understand or even try to understand the reason why I would want to celebrate after I scored a touchdown. I'm gonna tell you why. It's hard. If I could do it all over again, I'd celebrate more because I thought I was gonna score again. I ain't scored again since 05. That's a long time. You don't know when it's gonna end. So you celebrate because to quote Jay, I wear nice shoes. I had holes in my Zapatos. So I celebrate the minutes that I'm having. There's certain things that we gotta continue. Like our culture should be borrowed, but we should lease it, but we're letting people own it. And we don't even own it. We lost country music, we had that. We lost rock, we had that. All this stuff that people say is real music, we create. All the things, there's not a piece of American culture that has not been influenced by African American, and yet, and still, we created that, but we don't own it. So, all that to say is, access, buy-in, it's time for us to really support, whether it be political, time, talent, and trade. I don't go to church, but if the church wanted to have a meeting, I'll go. Because that's where, take that concept, the 10% kingship. If everybody in here, no matter how poor you are, gave 10% of their time, talent, and treasure to something, or to the cause, the overall cause of advancing the African American community, we would be where we want to be.
I gotta piggyback off of you before we get ready to wrap it, because we gotta get ready to get it.
I'm sorry about that.
No, you're done. I just wanted more record here in front of all of these citizens. Please consider making Gateway Mall an outlet mall. It would be.
Sage 2020. I'm still waiting the platform here.
I'm not going to the platform, but I want to give away wisdom on how to help it. It would have so much economic growth for that area. More people, more security. You have Darien, Georgia, and you have St. Augustine. We're right here in the middle. Right off the expressway. Why can't we do that? Start somewhere. If you show that we can do it, like the gentleman was saying. Yes. So we can have somewhere to go shop. I'm not saying put Gucci out of Gables. I'm saying you can put a knife, you can put a Reebok. All that's gonna sell. Say so?
So I want Gucci at all.
No, I'm just
That
saying.
black face sweater should have forever.
Yes.
There's no accident. No one has made a gas chamber.
There's never been a gas chamber design or anything to disrespect the Jewish culture. You cannot do blackface on accident. That is impossible for a high-end designer to do unless you're insensitive and intentionally trying to be harmful. So that is a very, very hurtful part of our past, our history. A noose, that is a sign of terror. So now Gucci didn't do that. There's a couple. I'm loaded with this kind of stuff. I'm blacker than black type dude. So, but anyway, we don't need their business no.
No, but please take that to the voices and to the people to refurbish that area. I believe if we could do some kind of outlet
Say,
on both
you got time for
sides.
one more question.
One more question?
Yeah.
That's it, we gotta wrap it up.
I got one final question, and then we're gonna wrap it up. And I thank everybody once again. Appreciate it. How y'all doing? I hope I'm not stepping on any toes. I did want to get from those who are running for office, like an elevator pitch of why you deserve my vote. That's all.
Good deal. Good.
Well, I
Good
welcome this opportunity. I'll be really quick. I'm Rhonda Peoples Waters, and I'm asking for your vote on August the 18th or before, because I am the most qualified person. I have been practicing law for over 20 years. I've run my own practice, which has been very successful for over 12 years. I've practiced every type of law that a circuit or county judge would handle when you're talking about family law, criminal law, personal injury, civil, contract, probate. All of those issues are not just issues that I would be experiencing for the first time on the bench. I have actually practiced on both sides of those areas. So you want people that are diverse. When you consider my opponent, who has only had one job prior to being appointed, which was a prosecutor for 12 years, and we believe that that makes the best judge, that's a problem. And then that feeds into the issues that we're all talking about here today. So that's why I asked for your vote, not because I'm black, but because I am qualified. Yes.
I like it.
All right.
My name is Dr. Albert Chester. I'm running for United States Representative of Florida's 5th Congressional District. Now, I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I'm running because I want to see better health in District 5. Not just physical health, but mental health, economic health like we talk about, environmental health holistically. Now, District 5 is my heart. It's my home. It's been my family's home for generations. My family, along with people all throughout this congressional district, raised me on the importance of hard work, faith, dedication, excellence with caring, and service to others. And I've been blessed and fortunate to do some great things in life. I started a pharmacy technician program on the Northside. I started a pharmacy in the same area to serve and hire the people from the neighborhood. And day in and day out, I saw the constant struggle of people trying to decide whether they're going to pay for their medications for the month, food for the month, or shelter for the month. And those stories, along with thousands of others, after delivering medications to homes where people were born sick, babies born sick because mothers didn't get the proper prenatal care, made me absolutely sick and convicted me to run. I believe our country's at a crossroads and we're in dire need for some serious change. We need policy change and we need leadership change. We can't expect the same people that have allowed these problems to fester to fix them. We can't have people who are fakes, who are phonies, who make things up to try to represent us. We need real representation with a heart for the people that has knowledge, that has a plan and a vision for the future, and I'm that leader. We've been in dire need, and without a serious democratic leadership that will lead from the front, not from the back, and I'm that person. My name is Dr. Albert Chester, and I'm running for United States Representative of Florida's 5th Congressional District. Please vote for me on August 3rd or on election day, August 18th.
One more question, and we gotta wrap it up. So, Ms. Holloway, is it?
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Hi, thank you. Actually, I don't have a question. I want to say good afternoon. I was unaware of this. However, I am a candidate to represent the people of the 5th Congressional District. Not only do I have depth and breadth of federal experience, I worked on Capitol Hill for Congresswoman.
I'm sorry, come on, one more time, so you can be on camera. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm.
Come a little closer and that way. Perfect, right there.
Hi, my name is Rhonda L.J. Holloway. I'm a candidate to represent the people of the 5th Congressional District. Not only am I a 4th generation Jacksonvillian, I have depth and breadth of federal experience. I worked on Capitol Hill for Congresswoman Carrie Meek. When I graduated from law school, Ms. Meek recognized my legal skills and ability, and she hired me to work for her on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. I am hoping that the people of the 5th Congressional District will elect LaShonda L.J. Holloway, because not only is she consistent, I am consistent. As the kids would say, I have receipts in this community. Many of you know that I've awarded scholarships to students in the Jacksonville community for more than 20 years. I'm the founder of All About Healthcare Advocates, but more importantly, I have federal experience. I have government experience. I work for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where I was instrumental in getting the No Fair Act passed for whistleblower protection. I also negotiated the largest deal in history at the United States Customs. Most of you know that this is Jim Crow 2.0. Laws are being overturned every day. We need people who are consistent, but who are also competent. It's important that when you go to Congress, that you know how not only to introduce a bill, but how to get a bill passed. So I would hope that for a better day, you would vote L.J. Holloway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Holloway. Thank you so much. Everybody, thanks for coming out. I thank you to all the guests who came out who lended their voice. I pray that we can come together again in the future for another time such as this. I'm just overwhelmed. I'm thankful. I'm blessed.
Running.
No. Attorney Phillips. You know, you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to do it. I thank you. Officer Freeman. You remember the officer used to come into the school? That was a good thing. We weren't scared, you know? Think about that too when you're running, and you're gonna bring that back into the classroom, because I think that'll help. But I think you do need to run again. I think you're ready. I think it's time. Get your strength up. Get your strength up. Rhonda Peoples Waters, thank you. Thank you. James, always, you always done for us, thank you. Dr. Jefferson, thank you so much. And I hope this invites your platform and get your voice and your word out. Queen First Lady Rashad Williams, thank you. Y'all, thank you for always inviting me out and having me be involved with your causes. I've been watching you on TV a lot.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I had the word behind me, supporting me, keeping me lifted up. Thank you, Father. Jeffrey, thank you so much. You're so vocal, you're so out in this community, and for you to take your time away, you didn't know who we were, didn't know what my culture was about. You came and did it.
Yolanda, thank you, and each one of us, thank you for bringing us together for this community event. We're glad to see you as one of the new and emerging voices here in Jacksonville, Florida. Julie,
Duval.
Thank you.
so much. I don't know when we're gonna, before COVID, we were here every Tuesday night. And since COVID has come, but we still had to get a voice heard. We had to just come in and just get it done. We put on our masks. I didn't know how it was going to work. And everybody came out of Richmond like, y'all, Rich got a life for me. I thank y'all. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all, Rich got a life.
our life.
Oh, in every sense.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. But we had to do it for this moment. We don't mind risking our life, but we're going to do something. You understand what I'm saying? So, I really don't know. Just follow us on all social media pages on when we're going to be able to be back. You know, because like we said, we don't know come November what we're going to be able to do. We don't know week to week, day to day, you know, with the numbers going up and everything. So we are always constantly out and about and involved with rallies and protests. Thank you, Mr. Bill Morris. This man came up, we met at a rally, and he set all this up for me.
Yes, that's awesome.
Mr. Mike, he got with Mr. Mike to donate his time for us.
Yeah.
People are willing to do things for us. And Alvin Mitchell, thank you.
Yeah.
Des, y'all know how I'm going everywhere. Des Otto, follow him, you still in New Jack City Live? They coming this fall, he's on WB 17. We have a lot of things going on in this city, but we gotta come together. 21st Man, Vince, CRC, where are they at?
They have to leave.
Oh, Courtney had to leave? Okay. I'm sorry, but they were with mental health. We're trying to cover all aspects, really we are. We're just trying to do better within the community, and I just pray that people come together with us, and let's just join, grab elbows, and let's get it done. Thank y'all so much for coming out. Okay, and thank you, Coco Brandon.
Real quick, can we give you my little hand? I come out to get involved and things like this that I host at the restaurant. My name is Brandon Myers, owner and executive chef here at the Cookbook Restaurant. I thank you for being a voice for our people. Man, you don't even know you my pastor. You don't even know that. I don't have to speak for so long. I live right up the street from your house. I'm the reason why I don't come because I'm a minister and I got to be at my church. Now I'm going to be there. That's my pastor. But I want to say something to all of the people who I've seen and met. I appreciate you because not only do you come to do stuff like this, people have told me, B, you throw the biggest family reunion in Duval every week because this is where black folks hang out. But what I appreciate and respect you for is because this is where you come, because you've eaten here several times, you've eaten here, you hosted events here, you love the food here, you eat here, you eat here almost every day, you hosted events here, you my pastor, you're here. So what it means to me is you come back to a place to spend your dollar, to hang with people at the family reunion. It's hard to elect people who you don't know. And if I don't know you, I don't trust you. I know you when we sit our feet behind the same table. So I say I appreciate you for coming to the cookbook, for supporting the cookbook. It has nothing to do to me about your dollar because I notice every day people will come, we piss them off one time, they never come back, but a brand new person comes the next day who I've never met and I get an opportunity to start all over again.
Yes.
So I appreciate you for not only taking this opportunity, because you're not opportunist because this is where you hang out. Some people would have showed up because I know this is the black circuit. They call this the black corridor. And then so I'm going to be acknowledged. No, you're here every day. Rhonda came here a few weeks ago. She began to pick up plates off the table because we were so packed. That's a heart of servitude to me, you know what I'm saying? Not just coming here to spend my dollar. This is my young black brother. He's packed. He has so many services. Let me fit in outside of who I am. That's what people need to see. So again, to the people who not only support my business, but I'll say I feel like you come to hang out with your people when you're here. And I feel like people know you, they respect you because you show up when we hang out. Thank you so much.
Y'all know what the cloud tag is, right? Excuse the Duval me, if y'all getting messed up, look at his shirt. But I need y'all to do the call out and look dead into the camera. 1, 2, 3. Excuse the Duval and me. God is good.
Northside Coalition of Jacksonville. We always say, we're on your side and on the move.
John Phillips with Phillips and Hunt, civil rights lawyer. So proud to be here today.
Hello, my name is Ken Jefferson. I serve as the crime and safety expert with WJHC TV4.
I'm at Big Game James _36 on Twitter, part of the Sports Den on 1010 Excel, 92.5 FM, and First Coast News.
I'm Rashad Williams. I'm with the 21st Men. We help give men of color a voice, and we're very active in the community. If you want to know more about us, go to at the 21st Men on Instagram.
I'm Dr. James White, one of the senior pastors of Heritage Christian Center, as well as one of the founders of the Faith-Based Coalition. Happy to lend our voice to move the conversation forward and make a better Jacksonville for all of its citizens.
Hello, I'm Rhonda Peoples Waters. I am a candidate for Duval County Court Judge, Group 6. I've practiced law for over 20 years in this community. I am a community servant. I absolutely love this community and have been willing to sacrifice. I'm a leader in the community. I've been involved in so many different organizations, but I come to you most and ask for your vote because I'm qualified. I've practiced all different areas of the law. We need to make sure that we have judges that care about our community. We need a diverse set of judges. Out of 55 judges, 5 of them are African American. We've never elected an African American female. We just want to open up opportunities for the next generation. So remember me, Rhonda Peoples Waters, vote August 18th. We need your vote. Thank you.
How you doing, District 5? My name is Dr. Albert Chester. I'm running for United States Representative of Florida's 5th Congressional District. Now, I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I'm running because we need better health in District 5. Not just physical health, but mental health, economic health, health holistically. I'm running because I want to improve that. I want to make those changes. We're at a crossroads. We're in dire need for serious change. We're in dire need for serious change in leadership. It's time for people like you and I to take the lead and take charge. We don't need people that have been in Washington, people that love Washington, people that are loyal to Washington. We need people that's loyal to people like you and I. I'm that guy. Let me represent you. Early voting is August 3rd. Election day is August 18th. Vote Albert Chester for U.S. Congress. See you then.
Hi, I'm LaShonda L.J. Holloway, candidate to represent the people of the 5th Congressional District. I am a 4th-generation Jacksonvillian. Look, I remember when Pearl Street was more than just the black corridor. Look, we had Davis Street, we had all of Springfield, but more importantly, it's important to elect a leader, a person who is not only competent, a person who is consistent, and who is courageous and has a fine command of the Constitution to represent you in Congress. Not only do I want to see just this corridor flourish, we need to see all of Jacksonville flourish, in particular the 5th Congressional District. We know that when you strengthen small business, you strengthen the community. Small businesses are the heartbeat of America, and I am the person who can help small businesses not only become AA certified, but help them to compete at a federal level so that they can sustain their businesses. Because once you can sustain your businesses, you can hire people, and when you hire people, that strengthens the community, and when you strengthen the community, you strengthen the city, the county, the state, and the country. So please, send me back to Washington to represent you. I work for Congresswoman Carrie Meek on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and I am looking to go back to bring back the same federal dollars that I, of course, got for Miami Gardens on the Appropriations Committee back to Jacksonville, so that Jacksonville can shape to its purpose and so that America can live to its creed. Let's make sure that we, the people, form a more perfect union. We want liberty and justice for all. For a better day, vote L.J. Holloway.